Hello everybody and welcome back for the first new VR news of 2024. As always, I am Mateo301 and this is your channel for everything VR related. So a lot of exciting things happened over the holidays. Things like Qualcomm announcing a new XR2 chipset, the Universal Mod injector finally releasing, and the Meta phone application was the #1 free app over that holiday season. Exciting stuff that we're going to go over, plus everything that's coming up this week. But it's not all good news. I do have a few not so great stories to go over. Now, there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by my sponsor, Kiwi Design. Kiwi has accessories for all of your favorite headsets, and they finally started releasing some new products for the Quest 3. On screen, we have their brand new extra comfy Quest 3 Elite strap. I've been using head straps from Kiwi for years now, and they're hands down my favorite. There's a link to Kiwi down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo301 for 5% off and to help support my channel. Okay, so let's start this video off like normal with the check-in, and that's what exactly have I been up to in the VR world. Well, I've been really sick lately. Like for the last 7 days, I've been knocked on my ass. If you've been watching my previous videos, my voice has been out. I'm sure you guys know this. I'm finally starting to feel better, but my voice still is not perfect, if you guys care. Additionally, I did get to play a bunch of games over the holidays, a lot more Asgard's Wrath 2, but I also jumped into Tiger Blade VR. It's exactly what I thought. It's a fun game, it's definitely cool to jump around with, but ultimately forgettable, so I'm not going to spend much time on that. Additionally, I'm going to be testing a lot of new things. I have the Slime VR full body trackers. So far, my experience has been really good. Additionally, I am also testing a wireless Valve Index. I have the Nofio adapter. Additionally, I'm testing the Big Screen Beyond, so there's lots of stuff going on the channel. I would love to hear down in the comments what you want to hear about the most, what I should prioritize. And additionally, there's some cool videos coming out that I can't talk about just yet. But let's not waste any more time and get into this week's new releases. Unfortunately, this is not a fantastic week for new releases. Underdogs, the one game I was really excited to jump into and show off you guys, appears to be delayed. Now, there haven't been any official announcements of that just yet, but when things go radio silent, that tends to be the case. Now, I am still planning to cover this underground pit fighting mech game, but as of right now, I'm not sure when that video will release. Now up next, we have Twistex, which appears to be a cool new take on Tetris. If dropping colored blocks on a 2D screen wasn't enough action for you, why not do it in 3 dimensions inside of a cylindrical tube? Now for Quest, Twistex is currently available via App Lab, and it was recently updated with extra Quest 3 support. You could play in mixed reality with your environment being dynamically lit, or if you're looking to play this game on PC VR, it's releasing later this week on Steam. And our final new release for this week is VRosty, which I assume the name is a play on Frosty. This is a puzzle platformer where you take control of a snowman, featuring some unique puppeteering style locomotion. You'll steer this snow-filled character across 30 levels, featuring physics-based puzzles, and plenty of enemies you could throw some snowballs at. Also make sure not to let your snowman melt across the way. Okay, so like I said, not a great week for new releases, and that bad news continues with game studios announcing both layoffs, and one is even shutting down. The studio behind multiple VR games, including most recently Journey to Foundation and the Doom 3 port, has recently announced some layoffs. Now, Archaeact was definitely on the larger side when it comes to independent VR studios, with a team of over 100 employees. For comparison, Big Box, who makes Population 1, only has around 30 employees. Now, we don't have any specific numbers when it comes to layoffs, but it's looking pretty significant. Now, things are looking even worse for First Contact Entertainment, creators of the Firewall series, as they've announced that they're shutting down. They cited lack of VR support in the industry for their reason for having to close the door. Now, it's easy to say the studio put too much faith in the release of the PlayStation VR 2, but their first foray into PvP shooters on the Quest with Solaris Off-World Combat did not go very well at all, and Firewall Ultra also had an extremely rocky launch. This is one more example of how VR developers have to prioritize the largest platform, namely the Meta Quest. Additionally, it shows that VR development is not the most stable industry, and a few bad mistakes is enough to force you to close your doors. Now, I'm really not happy about these last 2 stories. I really thought that the Firewall 0 Hour legacy would continue on the PlayStation VR 2. That felt like something new and exciting, and I thought they were going to wow us, but I'm pretty sure at some point in development, they're able to see how many PlayStation VR 2s are sold. They have an estimate of sales, like even if their game is great, 100% of people don't buy your game. And if you only sold, 600,000 PlayStation VR 2s, the max amount of games you could sell is 600,000. But really, in reality, you're only going to sell a fraction of that. So sometimes, which used to happen in the very early days of PC VR, studios have to cut their losses. They go, listen, this is the max amount of money we can make. We've already put in this much money. We got to launch. We got to make some money back. But you launch in a poor state, you're not well received. It's downhill from there sometimes. Some studios can recover, some can't. You know, like Cyberpunk 2077 had that forced to release type of scenario, but 2 years later, the game's absolutely amazing. And we had a similar scenario with No Man's Sky. But, you know, the VR industry is just not as big. And overall, this doesn't look that great for the PlayStation VR 2 either, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because people get upset when I talk about it. Now, unfortunately, I have one more small bit of bad news to go over. You may have recently noticed that you can no longer cast from your Quest to your TV. Meta is removing the feature to cast to a Google Chromecast or devices that use that same service. They're citing reliability and not fully being supported by Google as the main reason, but Meta is actively working on resolving this and making the overall casting experience better. Now, if you still have the ability to cast to these devices, it looks like it's only a matter of time before it disappears. Now, hopefully it's not too long before it returns, because as you see on screen, this is a feature I use every time I'm showing off VR to friends and family. But let's finally get back to some good news. So the Meta application for the phone was the #1 free application on the Apple Store over the holiday season. Now, this just shows that a lot of people picked up either a Quest 2 or Quest 3, which is great because it means VR is growing. That's pretty much all I care about. I want VR to get bigger and bigger so we could get better games, better hardware, more functionality, you name it. We need the money in the industry to be able to do great things. Now, for those who are hoping this will also grow PC VR, unfortunately, that doesn't look like the case. Steam's December survey is out, and Quest 3 users has significantly shot up, now making up nearly 10% of all Steam VR players. However, it looks like the majority of these gamers are people who updated because the total number of VR gamers really hasn't increased. Now, this ties in directly to my next topic, the release of the Universal Mod Injector. I did a full video on this subject, guys. Apparently it's slightly controversial because I just said it's not really for me. I don't think I'm going to use it. As cool as it is and as powerful it is, and actually it's just a magnificent developmental feat. Like, people who worked on this, incredible work. However, I just don't think it's there. And one of the aspects I talked about is, will it increase the VR player base? And I unfortunately said no. You know, this isn't enough to bring new people to PC VR. It doesn't matter if you said, oh, I know people who want to try it. That's anecdotal. I'm always looking at the stats, kind of seeing what's going on. Now, I'm completely okay with being wrong here. In fact, I want to be wrong. I want hundreds of thousands of new people to come to PC VR. I want PC VR to grow. Absolutely. But unless Valve does something like releases a Steam Deck, Valve Index combo that's super sleek and awesome and uses Steam and has an x86 architecture and uses all the Steam VR games, PC VR is not really going up. And unfortunately, as cool as the Universal Mod Injector is, and it's gonna, give so much more life to the people who love PC VR and can't stand mobile VR, that's all it's gonna do. It's not gonna bring new people in. And I know people are fighting me on this tooth and nail, but just let's give it some time. Okay, let's give it some time. Let's not fight about it. We'll look at the Steam survey numbers next month, see where they are 6 months from now. That's what we're going to do. Okay, guys. So just want to mention the Universal Mod Injector. If you want to know more about it, about the nearly 10,000 new games you can play in VR, experience, I would say, because experiences will vary based on the game and the hardware you have. But all these new experiences, you can jump into basically everything using the Unreal Engine 4 and 5. You can try out, test out in VR now. There's some configuration. Some's easy, some's not. It varies. However, I do recommend you check out the video. Go check it out. It's, even as a novelty, it's amazing. Okay, let's move on to the main event. The story that has me most excited is the fact that Qualcomm has already announced a brand new XR chip. The XR2 Plus Gen 2 not only features a horrible naming convention, but also 15% more GPU power and 20% more CPU power. So that's a pretty decent upgrade compared to what's currently in the Quest 3. Now, this is definitely not like a Quest 2 to Quest 3 jump. It's more like Quest 2 to Quest Pro. But there are also a few additional updates in this chipset, and there's already 3 new headsets planning to utilize it. This includes the productivity-focused immersed visor, and the unannounced headset from the Samsung-Google combination, plus one from HTC. Now, since the visor focuses on productivity, I'm not really excited there. I do want to see its form factor. That looks really cool. it's like super small, like the big screen beyond. But other than that, I'm not super interested. Additionally, HTC has moved out of the consumer market, and their headsets are usually extremely pricey. So I'm not gonna get myself hyped up for an HTC headset just to be let down for the 18th time now. So the one headset that has me really intrigued is that Samsung Google combination. I really want to see what they're bringing to the market and what their plans are. Now, I'm sure we'll find out soon enough, and I promise to update you guys with any new information I hear. Now, that was today's new VR news, the first news for 2024. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, consider subscribing. And as always, I'll see you guys on next time.